Hi there, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ethan. For those of you who do know me, I'm Bing Chilling. And today we're going to talk about Alien Romulus. I saw it at a special early screening before it actually was officially released. And I'm going to try to deliver this review from as unbiased a position as I possibly can. I didn't really go into this with some sort of pre-written, sort of pre-thought out review, but I did give it a little bit of thought, had a little bit of time to let the movie marinate so that I could try to come through this without the rose-colored glasses, so to speak, about the film. Because I won't lie, when I came out of the theater, I did come out of it pretty hyped and pretty in love with the film. With that being said, I'm gonna get into it by straight away just admitting I did enjoy the film. And even after going back, revisiting it, letting it marinate a little bit, I still am pretty much a fan of the film. It's a very solid film, I believe, and I'd give it maybe about a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, I do believe you should. Gonna get that out the way for anyone who doesn't want to wait until the end to hear my score and whether or not they should go see it. I definitely believe you should, especially if you are a fan of the Alien franchise. If you're not a fan of the Alien franchise, if you don't really like horror movies, if you're not really into any of that to begin with, there's not really a point in seeing this. You're probably going to be a little bored or upset or whatever, what have you, as I do know a few people who have had that experience who were never really a fan of the Alien franchise to begin with, and upon hearing their reviews just kind of left me in a position of like, why did you even watch the movie in the first place anyways then? But I digress. The Alien Romulus film, for those who don't know, does take place between the first Alien movie, starring Sigourney Weaver, and Aliens, the sequel. So it's kind of an interquel, so to speak, where it does take place between Alien and Aliens, so it's not necessarily a prequel, but also not necessarily a sequel. It's just in between. And that is a part of the reason why I do believe it is solid, because I have seen a lot of reviews that come from a more negative stance, saying that a lot of the things that were in the movie just felt like a lot of callbacks to Alien. A lot of references to Alien, that it wasn't necessarily being original within itself as its own thing. When I think that's being a little bit disingenuous, considering the fact that this is a movie that's taking place as Sigourney Weaver's character is still frozen in space, after the first Alien movie. So there are callbacks to her character Ripley, and I feel as though making references back to that first Alien movie, it's almost, at least given the context of where and when this movie is taking place, it feels as though it's almost impossible not to make those callbacks, not to make those references, because a lot of what is going on in this movie is due to the things that happened in that first Alien movie and the things that are going to happen in Aliens and Alien 3. So to make that sort of criticism isn't particularly valid. If you were to make a criticism about some of them being maybe corny or forced, I could maybe hear that out. But even then, in my opinion, a lot of them felt true to the nature of the franchise and not necessarily too forced or too corny. None of them really felt corny. I can maybe think of one or two references that I'm not going to spoil here, that maybe it was just like, okay, we're good. We get it. But for the most part, everything felt really, really solid. I wasn't particularly unhappy with any of it. It felt like just nods to the film, the original Alien film, from a director who is appreciative of the franchise that he now gets to enter his own creative vision into. And I think he did a magnificent job at that, for his first run at it. If it was his first run, I might be fuzzy on that detail. Don't, crucify me if I am. But at the end of the day, it still holds its own very well. I think, they could have done maybe a little bit more with the storyline and building the relationship with the characters, because it does feel a little bit difficult, for lack of a better word, to feel any sort of emotional attachment to any of the characters whenever they go through any of their, hardships, or I guess this might be a spoiler, but not really. It's Alien, but their deaths. It's hard to feel anything necessarily. The only person I felt anything towards in any sort of way, truth be told, is Andy. Andy is one of the main characters in this film who I do believe carries the entire film, but that may just have been the vision of the writers and the director. I can't see any reason as to why that wouldn't have been the intended vision or intended purpose of this character, when it feels as though Andy was a character that was very, very fleshed out. His motivations are very clear from the jump. Everything that's wrong with him and that will change about him is made very clear throughout the course of the film. It doesn't feel as though the focal point of this film are the other characters. They are essentially side characters that are acting as either anchors or something to direct the film forward, to direct Andy forward. And I feel that that's very important to keep in mind as well when watching this film. A lot of people seem to be taking that for granted as well. And yeah, Andy just carries the entire film. Forgive me for blanking on the actor's name that is portraying Andy, but he did a fantastic job. I can't even imagine how hard it must have been to try to work within that range of, essentially an artificial intelligence that is moving back and forth between different forms of intellect, so to speak, emotional capacity, logical capacity. It's honestly really impressive. I was really impressed by it, and he was my favorite character in the entire film. So I genuinely loved watching Andy just do Andy throughout the entire course of it. And one thing I also need to commend, being a film nerd myself, I got the Phantom Filmworks shirt on here today because I was sort of a film student, and so it was something that stood out to me, given my knowledge on the subject. The lighting of this film was spectacular. Nothing ever felt washed out or grainy or muddied, despite the fact that the majority of the film is all taking place in pretty much near pitch black darkness. This is obviously in the vacuum of space, a deactivated or decommissioned space station. Everything's dark, everything's really tense, smoky, but nothing ever feels muddied or washed out, because the lighting and the, composition, everything is just done very, very well in terms of, I guess, camera work, lighting, angles, composition, so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you with all of the details and buzzwords that are used in terms of filmmaking, but yeah, it was pulled off very, very well. And I do like that they tried pretty hard, for lack of a better word, again, to remain within the confines of the aesthetic that was created within the first Alien film, but also not straying too far away from the advancements that we have made in modern technology regarding cinema, so as to kind of date the entirety of the film back. Because you can tell there's still that difference in quality, obviously, between the first Alien film and Alien Romulus, but they did a really good job at still maintaining that aesthetic from the first Alien film that came out in what, like the 80s, and their vision of what, that future is. And the other thing that I feel made it a really good film, in my opinion, is the fact that it does play into your expectations while also finding little ways to subvert those expectations. And I'm not going to spoil the movie, but I'll give you an example by saying, like, let's say you expect that something's going to happen one way, right? This one thing is going to happen. And that one thing does happen, but not in the way that you think it's going to happen. Or, like, let's say you think this is going to be something that is a result of this other thing happening, and then this thing does happen, so you got that part right, but then this thing doesn't happen at all. Instead, it's something completely out of left field. I think they did a really good job of that, where they play into your expectations as the audience. They know what you were expecting, especially given the franchise, the foundations that they are given to play with. And they still find ways to subvert your expectations here and there, especially towards the ending of the film. That ending, it takes a lot to scare me. I love horror movies. It takes a lot to scare me, but I will admit, the way they pulled off that ending, it freaked me out. I was genuinely sitting there like, what the hell is that? It freaked me out. And for that alone, I think it deserves its points, because it takes a lot for anyone or anything, especially in regards to a horror film, to do that to me. Horror, suspense, thriller, whatever you want to call it. So I also give it a lot of points for that. There were some valid criticisms made within the realm of how the film, again, could have been sort of added to story-wise, because it does feel just a little bit like it's lacking. The world building is pretty solid, and I like that you have a little bit of a slow burn at the start to get an introduction to our characters and how they end up in this position in the first place. But it also does feel as though there's just a little bit of something missing. I'm not particularly sure what it is for myself, but it does feel like maybe there was a little bit missing there. I feel as though, especially in terms of the fact that this also doesn't necessarily feel like it is a necessary addition to the Alien franchise. It's a good one. It is a good addition. I will not deny it that, but it does not feel as though it is a necessary addition. And what I mean by that is, all the Alien movies served the purpose of adding to the Alien story, to building this story over time of either Sigourney Weaver's journey with the alien, with xenomorphs, or the story of the xenomorph and how it came to be, such as with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. However, this one seems to be just a side quest that was thrown in to the franchise for the sake of having a side quest, especially because of the fact that, without trying my best not to spoil anything, but this might be a little bit of a spoiler to some who might be able to pick up what I'm putting down. By the end of this film, you realize that pretty much everything that happened in this film was for nothing. It was all pretty much for nothing. It was a good side quest, a good story. It was entertaining, but it essentially does not push anything forward. It does not serve any other purpose other than just being this story to tell about this one thing that happened this one time, far away from whatever was going on with Sigourney Weaver and her character. But again, that's why I bring my rating down to a 7.5 light 8, just due to the fact that it is still a very, very aesthetically pleasing and entertaining watch, especially if you're a fan of the Alien movies, if you're a fan of horror movies, suspense, thriller, whatever, what have you. It is still a very good watch, and I do recommend that you do watch it. I had a good time watching it multiple times, and I feel like anyone else who is into that kind of stuff would as well. So yeah, there you go. That's my rating on Alien Romulus. Check it out, and you know, there will be more of these coming in the future, so look out for more videos. If you haven't subscribed or liked the video, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. And maybe leave a comment if you have any maybe disagreements about what I said about Alien Romulus, or if you agree with things I said about Alien Romulus. Just let me know in the comments below. And yeah, as always, if no one told you today, you are beautiful, you are handsome, you are loved. I'm proud of you. Keep going. If you ever need anyone to talk to, I'm available 24/7, 365 through any of the various social media links in the description below. Reach out, because you're not alone. You're never alone. Yeah. With that, the Alien. Peace.